Yes, like the prodigal son, Summoner Wars has returned. This now classic tactical combat card game was the debut release by Plaid Hat Games, and now that Colby Dowk, the original founder and designer, has reacquired the studios, they've turned fresh eyes onto the game, streamlining rules, unifying concepts, and giving it a complete graphical overhaul. But before we get ahead of ourselves and take too close of a look at this new second edition master set, let's get a quick recap on what is Summoner Wars. Summoner Wars is a two-player head-to-head tactical game played on an 8x6 grid. Players start with their summoner, a couple units, and a gate on their side, and try to deplete the life of their opponent's summoner to win. While factions, card types, and summoners offer a wide range of deck combinations and playstyles, in general, players spend magic to add new units and structures to the battlefield, creating new tactical options, and cast events for instant and lingering effects. Units can move and engage in swift, direct, dice-based combat. Melee units need to roll melee hits, range units need to roll range. The dice offer reliable probabilities while introducing just enough uncertainty to keep things exciting. Structures such as your starting or newly placed gates offer a myriad of advantages, from being the starting point for newly summoned units to acting as a defensive obstacle. Games are swift, severe, and full of easy to understand but high impact and oft agonizing tactical decisions, perhaps best exemplified by the magic point system, where magic is accrued only through either destroying enemy units or discarding cards from your hand at the end of your turn. Sure, you always draw back up to your hand size of 5, but once you burn through your deck, you are out of cards. Every discarded card feels weighty and like a lost resource in favor of another, just as each movement or attack feels like it's at the expense of other viable tactical options. One of my favorite things about Summoner Wars, which feels like it's been particularly honed in this new edition, is that it strikes a really sweet balance between approachability and strategic depth. The rules are easily learned, easily taught, and easily referenced, and it plays fast for a tactical game too. But there's a real sense of rich strategic possibilities. Positioning matters, what you activate matters, what you play, what you pitch, what you accrue. And while these in and of themselves may seem like relatively simple decisions, when they work in concert together, you have a true sense of momentum. Which brings me to this new edition of Summoner Wars. The best thing that I can say about 2nd edition is that it feels so much more intentional and cohesive. Things work together, cards synergize, abilities are consistent, and wildly divergent playstyles are not only balanced but conceptually clear. It feels really polished and really good. The Summoner Wars 2nd Edition Master Set comes with 6 pre-constructed decks representing 6 different factions ready to play out of the box. From Rhett Talus and their Fallen Kingdom, who amasses low-cost, disposable, and off-incentivized to die undead hordes, to Abu Ashi and their Savannah Elf Kingdom, strong and aggressive ranged attacks and juggling concentrated boost effects for devastating impact. From Sarah Eldwin's tough and militaristic vanguard specializing in sturdy defense and healing, to Sneaks' Cave Gobbo army full of zero-cost units and tricky movement options that swarm the battlefield, and from Takalu and her controlling and kiting breakers, as likely to convert an opponent's unit to their side as they are to pump them full of arrows, to my personal favorite, Severa and her polar dwarves, always looking 2 steps away from singing Let It Go. Her faction fortifies themselves with mobilized structures, advancing as a solid wall of frozen fury. Each deck seems thematically and strategically focused, and on the whole far more interesting than early Summoner Wars decks, while nowhere near as niche and complicated as those at the end of 1st edition's lifespan. For my taste, these decks are as good, if not better, than Summoner Wars has ever been. But this new edition goes well beyond that. I mean, yes, balance and interesting play are really important, but just as vital to this refresh is resetting the whole core identity of Summoner Wars. From an extremely well-executed penny arcade meets Disney visual overhaul that creates a charming world contrasting heavily with the look of the original, to the clean, clear layout of cards, to sprucing up and aligning rules, I mean, seriously, this rulebook has such good flow. I haven't played Summoner Wars in years, and it was so easy to dive back in. This is such a breath of fresh air. So obviously, I'm a big fan. This is such a great showing by Plaid Hat, a studio whose entire career so far is bookended by this game, which brings me to my one only real complaint. For being a game that is so important to this publisher and its fans, the master set feels like a bit of a letdown when it comes to its production. Look, this may sound nitpicky, but it's 2021. When I open a box and there's a ton of empty space and just a couple of stacks of loosely packaged cards inside, I feel like there's either not enough content or too much waste. And sure, an inevitable trove of cards will come down the pike, so maybe you want extra space. Except no consideration is made to organize, store, and support the cards already contained, let alone any you might get down the road. The board is certainly high quality, but the tokens feel pretty cheap, and while the 6 included decks give you a solid and diverse set of precons to work with, it's kinda disappointing that the confines of deck construction will not allow for any mishmashing with what's in the box. Ultimately, I turned to my good old-fashioned nerdy roots, employing third-party products from Hugo's Amazing Tape to some tubs from BGG to help with organization. But this feels like a missed opportunity to make the overall presentation and packaging of the game feel as modern and inviting as the new system itself. So overall, a little bit of disappointment with the presentation of the master set aside. The new Summoner Wars 2.0 has me thoroughly impressed. It's the same meaty, fun, fast-playing tactical game that it's always been, but revamped and revitalized so that it feels more approachable to new players and more sturdy and well thought out as an overall system to be tapped into. While I liked the original, I was never a die-hard fan, but this new set has me reconsidering and more excited to play than the original ever did. And that is our review. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.